Anticipated release of US petroleum reserves has brought on another fluctuation in oil prices. They're down by more than $5 in response to the news. Brent futures for May fell $5.47 to $108 a barrel. That follows, of course, a huge increase in the price of oil. Brent crude hit $139 a barrel earlier this month after Russia invaded Ukraine and, of course, the West imposed economic sanctions on Moscow. Well, Spencer Welch is Vice President for Oil Markets at S&P Global and joins us now. Welcome to the programme. Thanks very much for your company. What is the significance of this US announcement on the release of the Strategic Oil Reserve? Is it any more than tokenism?
Hi, good to speak to you. Yes, I think it is. I believe it's the largest release ever from US stocks, 180 million barrels. So it is a significant amount of oil. And it's going to be gradually released 1 million barrels per day over the next 6 months. That's about 1% of the world's demand for oil. We think that the supply shortage from Russia could be 3 or 4 million barrels per day. So it certainly helps, but it will not fix the problem.
Do you think we're going to see wider coordination between the United States and its allies when it comes to this kind of release and this kind of management of oil supplies?
I think it's unlikely. I think the US is in a fairly unique situation that they have a very large amount of oil in storage, whereas most of the other countries, like European countries, they have a much lower amount, and they probably want to hold on to that for an emergency situation, whereas the United States historically has a very large inventory from when they were a much larger importer of oil, whereas now they're a much bigger producer of oil, and so they have no real need to keep as much emergency supply in storage as they do.
I do want to ask you about the significance of the timing of all this, because OPEC has this meeting today, and of course it's the same day that President Biden plans to make his move. We're going to hear about that in the next couple of minutes. Is this a snub to OPEC? How do you read it?
I definitely think it's not a snub to OPEC. It's about different countries doing what they can, what they feel is appropriate. The whole world is suffering from the high prices of oil and gas. It's a particularly sensitive political topic in the US, and hence they are releasing the strategic reserves. OPEC is a different matter. They are continuing with what has been a policy now for almost a year to gradually increase supply, and effectively they are bringing oil back to the market that was taken from the market when COVID hit us 2 years ago.
Well, OPEC had their meeting earlier, of course, and they decided to stick to their production plan despite these high oil prices. What should we make of that?
I think, as your report said, very predictable. There would have been very short odds on them making that decision. As you reported, the meeting took 12 minutes. So it's a very sensitive politics within OPEC Plus, which includes Russia and the relationship between Saudi Arabia and the United States and Saudi Arabia and Russia. They effectively want to keep, in communication and maintain a good relationship with both parties. So they've continued what they've been doing for the last 9 months, which is every month increasing production by 400,000 barrels per day, a very steady ramp up, and that's what they are trying to do. Therefore, effectively, they are keeping on board with Russia because they're keeping the alliance with Russia going, and also offering a little bit to the United States and the rest of the world because they can say, yes, we are trying to gradually increase our production.
Spencer Welch at S&P Global, thank you very much for coming on the programme.
My pleasure.